want to welcome everybody to Poppin Politics. I want to welcome everybody here. My name is Eric Center, aka Forget About It. I got my co-host here, Ken Long, aka DJ King Majesty. He's on the
Yes,
West
sir.
Coast. I'm down here in the ATL. And what we're going to do here is talk about politics, everything having to do with campaign 2024, whether it be the top of the ticket as far as the federal level, local politics, so on and so forth, but everything having to do with politics. So with that, we'll go ahead and get everything kicked off with pretty much the news of the day, what everybody's talking about, which is the campaign between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris and where that stands today. And more or less, we want to kind of jump into it and kind of understand that, like, what's the state of the race? You know, you have Kamala versus Trump. We have the negative ads. We have the positive ads. We're all being bombarded with all these different TV ads and radio ads, so on and so forth. So, we get everybody's thoughts on that piece. And pretty much, what are your thoughts on that there, Ken?
Um, well, I try to be as less biased as I can and just look at it from a objective view, to really not just have my own views, but actually look and see, because there's a lot of people that look like us that are on both sides of the fence. So, so I want to understand them and not just say, "Oh, you're wrong." But the debate was very interesting. It was like a sweep, the way I viewed it. Even though objective as I could be, I feel like common sense, it was just a sweep. And it's interesting to me because I'm really not a political person, but I'm still a common sense person. So I could still follow and understand. And I know there's a lot of people like me that are not deep into politics, but they still have interest in it. So we're definitely going to get into that and kind of break it down a little bit.
Definitely, definitely. For me, it comes down to just, it's kind of weird, if you think about it growing up as a kid, seeing your parents and how they, look at view politics or whatever. I don't know if they actually looked at character per se, but
Right,
nowadays Donald Trump is such a character that it makes you
right,
look at the character of a person, the person that's looking to be the leader of the free world. And with him, like, I'll take a step back. For me, to be totally transparent with everybody, I voted for George W. Bush twice. One because
hmm
I wasn't feeling Al Gore in 2000, and then in
right,
2004 I wasn't feeling John Kerry. Point blank, period. And
right,
for me, it's not about Democrat or Republican because
right.
there's some Republican parts of their platform that I agree with as far
hmm
as small government, so on and so forth. But there's some things on the Democratic side that I agree with as well, as far as needing a safety net for American citizens, and so and some other things as well. But at the end of the day, it's all about just getting a person in there that's going to do the job, take care of the
And to me,
American people.
just to piggyback off of what you said, I think that would make the country so much better if people weren't so bent on Republican versus Democrat and just go for who you think is the best person. It doesn't matter Republican, Democrat. It's about who's the best,
Exactly.
you know?
I think nowadays more often than not, people are going for, going party versus country. They're
Right,
voting, it's more about the power and keeping a seat than going in there and legislating and actually representing the true ideals and wants of the people that you represent in your community, whether it be a Senate district, whether it be a congressional district or whatever. It's more about keeping that seat and power. And I've come to from the standpoint now of, if whoever's running for office in my district, let's call it, or my city, my state, and they're talking about going to fight against the Democrats, I'm going to go to Washington and fight against the Republicans. That's not the person that I want going to Washington to
right,
represent me. I want
right,
somebody going who's basically stating to me, I'm going to go there to represent the people in my district. I'm going to go and represent their ideals, represent their wants, their needs, their objectives. Not going up there fighting against other Americans. Because at the
right,
end of the day, it just turns into a big cluster of arguing back and forth, one side wanting to get everything they want for their side, not realizing that this country wasn't founded on a singular plateau or a singular bucket of ideas. It was founded on a plethora of ideals. You know what I'm
right,
saying? Ideas from different platforms and different perspectives. And so with that, you have to have compromise. And more often than not, you have both Democrats and Republicans, not all, but a lot of them, or too many of them, I should say, come forward and they say that it's an all or nothing thing. We want our platform being front and center. We want our platform being front and center over on this side or on that side. And when it's like that, it's going to be a constant head button. You know what I'm saying? And so what we have to do is elect folks who are going to go there with the understanding of you're going to have to compromise. You're not going to ever get everything that you want. You know what I'm saying? You're going to say, you know what? You want this? Okay, if you want this, let me get this. And then at the end of the day,
that's an interesting point. That's an interesting point because I was thinking as you were talking that it seems in the last handful of presidential, just to find the president that I find myself personally, I don't know how everyone else feels about it, but that it's almost like I'm trying to see who is the lesser bad president instead of just saying, "Oh, you're feeling good about your president." You know, Bill Clinton was president. I felt good about it. When Obama was president, I felt good about it. I was like, we have just a decent person, a smart person, a person who any president may have some things about themselves, but it just seemed like overall they were for the people, for all the people.
Yeah.
But lately, these last few presidencies, it's like I find myself like, okay, they're both bad. Who's the less bad?
Yeah. What the
That's how
country
I've
has
been feeling
done,
about it.
I feel you 100% because what's happened is this country has allowed one person, one man, Donald Trump, to kind of turn our politics on his head. You know, before Trump, don't get me wrong, you had disagreements, you had some headbutting as far as Democrats versus Republican, et cetera. But he brought in the whole name calling piece and just
That's
it's kind of
crazy.
scraping at the bottom of the bucket when it comes to decorum. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna have disagreements, but
I don't
you
even
look,
understand
yeah,
how, if even if you're Republican, I just do not understand how you could be for someone who is talking the way that he's talking. Not business people. Your business people are not supposed to be okay with the way that this guy is talking. I mean,
business
he
people,
doesn't
if business people at his level, they don't even respect him because if you
right.
listen to him
So it's just
speak,
about the money.
exactly, and I'm not even talking about it from a Democrat Republican perspective. When you listen to this individual speak, he's not saying anything. All he's doing is making promises. We're going to be great. We're going to be this. We're going to bring in billions and billions of dollars, but he's giving no context as far as how that's going to happen.
I mean, he
You know what
doesn't
I'm
even
saying?
sound intelligent, though.
He doesn't. He doesn't. He's somebody that got a bucket of money when he was young, and he was able to leverage his name. And if you think about it, if you look at his business overall, it's built around his name, not around a
But you
bunch
know what?
of great business savvy necessarily.
You know what is really mind blowing to me? I don't think he's a dummy. I actually think he's pretty smart. But I think I don't know why, but it seemed like he's actually doing this on purpose. It seemed like it's just working for him. Like he's actually studied it or something and he's just coming across like this on purpose because there's a lot of people that follow it or something because he can't be dumb. He
I
can't be
think
dumb.
I think he's an entertainer more than anything. I think he's going to say whatever he
That's
needs to
that's
say
that's a fact.
to remain the focal point. You know, whatever needs to be said to remain the focal point is what he's going to do, and it's
Right.
going to be all dependent upon. I didn't even take a step back from that. I don't even think it's dependent on his audience because when he was with, I believe it was the I'm gonna mess the name of it up, but basically it was the Black Journalist, the National Black Journalists Association. I think it was in Chicago a couple months back. That was an all bad, interview from his standpoint, and it was just an overall bad interview. So I can't say he's gonna kind of yield towards his audience per se because that audience was just it was an all bad piece for him altogether. But from the
Okay.
standpoint of he's gonna say whatever comes to mind versus a person with intellect taking a step back, understanding their audience, and trying to say something that's intelligent. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
He speaks off the top of his head.
Right.
Um,
He
and
feels like he
in his
can.
heart.
He feels like he can just say anything, and it just doesn't matter. Whatever I say, he thinks he's the king.
Yeah,
But
but it comes down to
anyways,
too, how do you want somebody like that to be the leader of the free world?
that's
Because if you
that's
think
what I'm
about it,
saying.
I listen to a lot of like right wing talk radio, and I listen to a cat by the name of Eric Erickson, and he's a Republican 100%. And in
Mhm.
standard, he's actually a pretty level headed cat. You know what I'm
Right,
saying? But in the last say couple of months, as this campaign has progressed, it's more or less he's made comments like, okay, the campaign needs to take Donald Trump's phone away from him because he's doing too much. He's doing too much. He can't stay focused. So I'm like,
wow,
he sounds like he's describing a 10-year-old. You know what I'm saying?
right.
Take his phone away from him. He's not staying focused. He's not staying on the plan. He's not doing.
So how do you feel okay with voting for someone that you have to talk about like that?
Exactly. And that's my point exactly. It's just it makes no sense. So you're saying all of this, but at the same token, you're saying you want to put him in the most powerful office in the world. You know what I'm
Right,
saying? I understand you may not agree 100% with Kamala Harris's platform and her policies, but at the same token, you need someone in that office that's level-headed. That can't be easily swayed, who doesn't need to be smoothed by the people around them to make them feel powerful. If
right.
it just doesn't make any sense. But with
It
that,
doesn't, man.
you know, um, it doesn't make any sense. But with that, it's just a matter of if you get into their policies or whatever, or taking this even going further than that, the primary thing that Kamala Harris is being pounded on now is inflation. And from my standpoint, I can't understand for the life of me why the Democrats haven't really taken a big deep dive into what really caused inflation. I'm sure they know, but they allow the Republicans to say that it's all because of Biden. But at the same token, if you go back 4.5 years, if you look at it, first it was COVID. They said when COVID hit, when you had the everything being backed up from a distribution standpoint around the world, that
Right.
that was going to cause an issue from an economic standpoint
Hmm.
around the world. That was going to cause an
Hmm.
issue. That's one. Two, when the Trump administration cut checks for the American people, putting that much money into the economy, that's strike number two. That was going to eventually lead to inflation. Then the Biden administration came in and doubled down on that and distributed checks as well. That made it that much worse. So it's a three-prong issue that's caused inflation. It's the COVID, it's the checks that the Trump administration cut, and then it's the checks that the Biden administration cut, that led to the level of inflation that we had. And they said at the
And to
time
me,
that it was going to
to
happen.
me, to me, it's all political. I don't think they're doing it with it because what is that little money really gonna do anyway? I mean, yes, it's gonna help me this week and maybe this month, but it's not really gonna make a big impact on my life. And so I think it's just more so of a political scheme that okay, if I can give you money, then people are gonna vote for me because they want the money.
I wouldn't say that because during COVID, I was blessed
Well,
enough
yeah,
to where I was, from an economic standpoint, I wasn't struggling. In the industry that I'm in, we were good. You know what I'm saying?
right,
So from that perspective, I was good. But what they did was it was a band-aid because they knew people were hurting. They knew a lot of people were out of work. You know what I'm saying? They knew that a lot of people who were still working perhaps may have had hours cut or whatever the case may be.
right,
So to some people, I'm sure it was a help. But at the same token, from the grand scheme of things, there was a negative impact. You know what I'm saying? We have to have this band-aid on here, but at the same token, the negative impact is going to be probably inflation because we're putting too much money into the economy. Whenever you
right,
have too much money going into the economy, the value of that money is going to come down. You know what I'm saying?
right. So
Basically
so
what
we may
happened.
we may stop the bleeding for right now, but what is that gonna do when you really need surgery?
Exactly, exactly. And so, but what the Biden administration did when they came in was they cut more checks, but at the same token, shortly thereafter, they started putting things in motion to where they could help, try to curve the inflation piece. The inflation did get out of hand for a minute, but the things that what they've done and also the Federal Reserve have done has helped curb that inflation and help bring it down. You know what I'm saying? Quite a bit from where it was before. It was over, I think, over 4% before. Now we're down to I think a little less than 2.5%, and it's continuing to get better every single month, every single quarter. So that's a good thing. So it's getting
Right.
better. But at the same token, it was a matter of, again, if the Democrats just take a step back and explain what caused it, it will help kind of dead that whole Republican piece where, talking point to where, oh, the inflation's all Biden's fault. It's that they've caused it. You know what I'm saying?
I
And that's,
mean,
you got to
if
hit
you
this stuff
can't,
on the
if
head.
you if you can't, well, it does have to be articulated, but I'm like, it's almost like common sense from my standpoint. Like if you can't see that, I don't know what to really tell you. Like
But
that's
but you have to realize a lot of people, I would say almost the majority of people, they get their news, their information from
right,
maybe one, maybe in some scenarios, two sources. So on the Republican side, if all you're watching is Fox News, all you're going to hear is it's Biden's fault, it's Biden's fault, it's
right,
Biden's fault.
right,
On the
right,
Democratic side, if all you're watching is CNN, CNN to me is probably the most even keel as far as the news sources that are out there. But
yeah,
if you're watching CNN, they're not taking that deep. I watch them every day. I haven't seen them take that deep dive and say this is the true cause of inflation. They just allow
right,
that talking point to continue to go because for them, it's again, it gives that two-sided kind of battle to where Republicans are saying this, Democrats are saying this, because if they
right.
were to dead that, then it would lessen the news stream potential. I don't know, but
Yeah,
nobody's saying
that
exactly
sounds
what
reasonable.
caused it. You know what I'm saying? And that's the frustrating part about it. Nobody's stepping out and articulating exactly what's going on. Not even Kamala herself. You know what I'm saying? Nobody from her campaign has even said in any of their interviews, well, let's take a step back and really get into what's caused inflation and why we are here. And, but also at the same token, what we've done to bring that back down, to correct it.
Right.
Nobody's saying that. And I don't understand why that is, but
Well,
to
to
me, that would be a
piggyback, just
brainer.
to rewind a little bit, because you were speaking about the pandemic and how it had its effect on the economy. Well, what about the pandemic? So the pandemic is kind of the starting point of how this thing really started to get tangled up. So look at the pandemic. What happened? I can't speak as it in entirety. There may be some things I don't know, but I do I do feel like Trump he prolonged it. They were trying to get out in front of it, but because he wanted to have his name on it and be the famous one to he said it was no problem, and then boom, huge problem. So he kind of delayed the efforts to minimize it, and it just blew all out of control.
I agree to a certain extent. Um, I think the majority of it was probably out of his hands because it was going to spread regardless. But I remember going back to where, like again, I watch the news daily.
Yeah, it was
And I
it was
remember the
gonna blow.
time,
It was gonna blow regardless. But he delayed people putting things in places to slow it down.
yeah,
The mask and sanitizing and just those things. It was just we're just empty
the
handed.
where what
You
happened,
know.
like I remember the day where I was watching the news and they said, okay, there's 10 cases in Seattle. I remember that,
Right.
the first 10 cases, when they said it was like 10 or 15 cases in Seattle. And then every day from that point, it just grew and grew and grew to hundreds
Right.
and thousands and tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands until we had over 1 million people, whatever. But I remember that, and I think I think it was a twofold thing to where if it was a twofold thing to where
He changed.
it
He
was
changed his
politicized.
tune.
It did.
Right.
It was
He changed it. He changed his tune once it blew out of control. He didn't want to go with the same narrative that he first said
it was
because it's too late now.
politicized. Definitely. It was
So I,
definitely
so I, I actually feel like a lot of lives could have been saved had he just admitted it and said it's big instead. Maybe he just didn't know, but you're the president. You're not supposed to just if you don't know, then definitely don't speak and say it's not. Just
exactly.
let us know you don't. Let us know you're still studying it, but don't just say, "Oh, it's all good."
I agree 100%. I agree 100% because it gets to the point to where everything became politicized. You know what I'm saying? It was just a matter of,
Right.
oh, the Democrats want us to wear masks. They want us to lock down. And then the Republicans were like, no, we're not going to lock down. Here in Georgia, it took us a while, but we eventually did lock down. And we were one of the first states to come out of everything. But to me, it was crazy was the first thing that they pretty much unlocked here in Georgia were like beauty salons, bowling alleys, tattoo parlors, and things like that that didn't make any sense, in the grand scheme of things. But at the same
That's
token,
that's that's scary to have a person like that in control who is going to be more on how can they get ahead than how can we keep people safe.
yeah,
That's scary, man.
yeah, but just, at this, I hear you 100%, but I also like to put myself in their shoes
Okay,
and kind of looking at it from the standpoint of I don't know what information they had available to us. We like to think of the government, okay, they know everything. They know this, they know that, they know that.
right,
But with
right.
something like that, no government around the world seemed to know too much of anything as far
I,
as how
I'm
to fix it.
okay. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with them saying we're trying to we're trying to figure it out. I'm okay with the truth basically. But when you say even if you don't know yet, but if you go out there and say it's not a problem, and then now it's catastrophic, then you need to be held accountable for that, even
Agreed.
if you didn't know. You
But
know,
from a leadership perspective, when it comes to government, to keep from causing panic, so on and so forth, I think you have
true,
two approaches. You have one, you come out like they did and say, okay, it isn't a big deal. Or two, you come out and you have to put forth a strong face to make it seem as though, okay, it's a big deal, but we have it under control. Even though you may not in the background,
right?
we have it under control. Because people in general panic. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? The average individual panics. So
I
from a
could,
leadership
I could
perspective,
understand that.
from a government perspective, those are pretty much probably the two things that I would say nine
I,
times out of 10, that's the approach they're going to take. They're not going to come out
right.
and they're never going to come out and say, we don't know what the hell's going on. We in the same boat as y'all. We have no idea.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because if you think about it, what kind of panic is that going to cause? You know what
Right.
I'm saying? You got to think of what it's going to do to the stock market.
I,
You got to
I
think of
could,
it
I
from
could,
so many different areas. You know what I'm
that,
saying?
that I could, when I look at, when you say it like that and I think about it from that perspective, I can give them a little bit more leniency on that.
Because the people want truth. The people always want truth. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But the people that,
But
but at
not
the end of the day,
terrifying truth.
yeah, but at the end of the day, the people that really don't want the truth because if they knew the truth about really what's going on in this
Right.
world. Man, people will
Who
freak the hell
knows what,
out.
right. Who knows
People,
what it would be.
stock market would crash. It would be
Right.
total
Yeah. You
total
can't
damn
have all that.
chaos.
Right.
So
That's
you
true.
have to put forth this face no matter what's
That's
going
true.
on, whether it's
That's
COVID or
true.
whatever. You got to put forth this face to say, everything's cool. We have it under control. This is
Right.
what's going on. We're never gonna know everything that's going on ever, because if we
Right.
did, as a general public, if we ever knew everything that was going on behind the scenes, it would be total damn chaos. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Facts.
But
Facts.
with that, I also want to kind of get into we know basically the people that support Trump, the people that support Kamala Harris or whatever, but there's a small segment of African American men that support Trump. And I say it's a small piece that do support him, but it's significant enough to where it's detracting from those that should be or would be typically supporting Kamala Harris. Um,
Right.
why do you think why do you think that is?
Oh man. Um. Sometimes I feel like you people our people sometimes want to be on the winning side, so to speak, depending on how you look at it. Because if we look at it from a generational standpoint and just life as a black person, the white people got the money and the black people don't, as far as at a whole. Not, of course, you got your Oprahs and the Michael Jordans and stuff like that, but just as far as if we go person for person, our life, it feels like they're blowing us out the water. And so I think sometimes you just they want to get on that winning side. They want to be a house Negro instead of a field Negro. Sometimes they're like, I want to, and I can't just necessarily be mad at them for it because, hey, I'm tired of getting whipped, man. I want to get in here and drink some tea, you know.
Yeah,
So
I I look at it a bit different. I think that a lot of it is just misinformation or the
Yeah.
lack of taking a deeper dive into really what happened and what's going on. Because a lot of folks
Oh, and
still under the impression, go ahead.
another, because I just thought about it. Another big reason why I think that is because this is what I hear. And again, I'm not all into politics, so you just take it as an opinion, and then maybe you can put some clarity on it. But I hear a lot of people talking about from Kamala Harris put so many black and minority people in jail, and that's a huge bad look as far as black people are concerned. So I think that has a lot to do with why they're just against her,
Well,
which I don't understand because look how many things Trump has against black people. So I really don't get that, but that's what I hear a lot of people saying.
I'll say this on both of those pieces. One, on the Kamala Harris piece, being the AG in California or whatnot, both our home state. That's not
Right.
true. That's not true at all. Her job as Attorney General was to enforce the laws that are out there. That's her job. So if you broke the law and you happen to be black, unfortunately, that's what happened. But she also developed a lot of programs to help young black men who were being incarcerated, so on and so forth. So I
Hmm.
think on that level, people just need to take a deeper dive and really
Right.
look at the facts. On number two, I think a lot of folks also looked at it from a standpoint of just going back. They say, okay, my economy was better under Trump than it is now. Was it
Hmm.
what policies did he put in place to make that economy that much better? Or was it the fact that he benefited when from taking over from Barack Obama, who had a record number of consecutive years and quarters of growth? When Obama
Hmm.
came in, think about it, if you take a step back, when Obama came into office, he took over in the midst of a financial crisis from a
Yep.
from a Republican president. When
Speak.
when Biden came into office, he took over in the midst of COVID. So you had a
They f-
Democrat,
they
you had a Democrat coming into office, being a Barack Obama, coming into chaos, having to fix stuff, and then build from scratch, coming back up, and Biden basically having to do the same thing.
say that.
So did Trump benefit from the fact that Barack Obama stabilized this economy and got it on a trajectory to grow?
You
And
damn, you damn
he
right he did.
benefit from that? Or again, if tell me what policies he put in place that caused the economy to just explode all of a sudden. Because to me, that's to me what would happen. Don't get me wrong, there may have been some things that were put in place to help the economy, but he also was the beneficiary of his Democratic predecessor that that basically stabilized the economy and had that long time of growth as far as the economy was concerned. So again, people need to take a deeper dive into exactly why Trump, from an economic standpoint, was as successful as he was when he came into office.
Man, his
You know,
focus, his focus when he got into office was to just take everything Obama did and destroy it and put his name on everything and make it seem like he's the great hope. That's all he
yeah,
was doing.
yeah. Even going back to last night, just real quick, before we run out of time, when JD Vance did the vice presidential debate last night, they talked about Obamacare. And the question was asked, what would they do when they came in? If they were to get in the office, what would the Republicans do? And he tried to basically make it seem like, well, Trump wants to improve it and do this and do that with it. But in all actuality, when Trump was in office last time, he tried 60 times to repeal Obamacare. And then when Trump was asked on his debate with Kamala Harris, well, what would you do to replace it? They don't have anything to replace it. Nothing.
Here's
They have no
here's
plan in
here's
place.
here's to me. Here's where the you can do a mic drop because this is unheard of to me. So number one, your vice president, when you were in there, he's just totally against you now. He's not writing for you. He's against you now. You're the guy who you made your right hand man is not messing with you anymore. And then not to mention all the people on your campaign or on your team that that are facing charges are doing jail time. And then secondly, now how stupid can you be? The person who you got now as your vice president, he spoke bad about you. It's
Yeah, I'm
come
glad
on, man.
to me that's what they don't bring it up enough to where The dude you have in your ticket as your vice president right now called you America's Hitler just about 4 years ago.
Come
You
on
know,
now.
he called you America. He didn't say you were a bad person. He didn't say you were a jerk. He didn't say, you were just a mean person.
Right.
He called you
Right.
America's Hitler. He called
You
you the
can't take
worst person.
you
This
can't
is
take that back.
you
He trying
can't.
to backpedal like you can't
You
take
can't.
that back.
You can't take that back. And then they tried to get Kamala on how she changed some of her views or some of her stances on some things. But I'm like, dude, you had the biggest flip flop of calling this man America's Hitler, and now you sit here riding his coattails.
Of
So
course,
it
because
makes no
you want to
sense.
get the seat. You just want the seat. We know what time it is.
At the end of the
Not
day,
fooling nobody with that.
it's about the power, But at the end of the day, I would say that it's in everyone's best interest, and I'm gonna say this, I'm gonna have a closing statement, and I want you to have a closing statement too. It's in everyone's best interest to do your research. Don't just look at a single platform. Don't look at a single news agency. Do your real research and find out about these candidates, because who's in that Oval Office does affect you, whether you know it or not. It affects you. It affects the amount of taxes you pay. It affects how secure you're going to be from a domestic and international perspective. It affects you in so many different ways. And don't think that it doesn't, but it does. And so with that, research who's running for office. Again, I'm not saying to vote for Trump or to vote for Kamala, but do your research and make the most educated decision that you can, because it is important. If you're not registered to vote, register to vote, because it's going to be here in a heartbeat. We're less than a month away, just a little bit over a month away now from election day. So it's imperative that everybody get registered to vote and get ready and go out and make the right vote. But who's in an Oval Office makes a difference. It makes a difference whether we go to war or not with other countries, and that will affect us eventually. So it's highly important you do that. Your vote counts. Don't think that it doesn't. Here in Georgia, a few years ago, it came down to 11,000 and some change as far as votes.
Mm-hmm.
Every vote counts. I can't. These last two elections overemphasize that every vote counts. So it's imperative that you vote. The floor is yours, my friend.
Well, I'm gonna just keep it simple. I like everything you say, and I agree with it 1,000%. But I'll keep it simple, and I can only go from where my heart is at. And I say, hey, you have a person who incited the White House being taken over. You have a person who has 30 felonies, or he's in court fighting charges, trying to become president. You got people with sexual assault charges. You got a person who you hear on the microphone out his own mouth saying some vulgar things, saying some things that just a person in that position should not be able to say. And so, aside from all of the facts that Eric just laid out for you, just common sense. I mean, if the guy has been charged for people running into the White House, not conceding to losing. I mean, so that's where I stand. Definitely get registered to vote. Definitely your vote counts. But hey, you don't want a person like that in there. That's my opinion. I'm not even some huge Kamala person. I will vote for Flavor Flav before I would vote for Donald Trump, and I'm leave it at that.
No doubt, no doubt. But with that, just wrapping up the first episode of Poppin Politics, the first of many. We have just a little bit over a month to go before the election. We're going to do our best to do a show at least once a week between now and the election to keep everybody abreast of what's going on and keep the dialogue going. If you can, comment on what you've heard. If you have your opinions, please post those as well, and we'll discuss those during the next show. Outside of that, I'm Eric Center, aka Forget About It. We have Ken Long, aka DJ King Majesty. We thank you.
Yes, sir.
And we welcome everybody's viewpoints. Let's make it happen. Get out there, vote, register to vote, and let's make that vote count. Peace.
Poppin Politics.
Yes, sir.